housing market is still struggling. Sales of existing homes unexpectedly dropped in April. Housing was a major driving force for growth during the boom years, but what about now? Can the economy really recover without housing? Joining us, Shari Olefson, real estate attorney and author of Foreclosure Nation, Michael Farr, president of Farr, Miller in Washington, and CNBC contributor, and CNBC's own Diana Olick. Michael Farr, start with you. Can the economy truly recover without housing?
No. Thank you very much for having me on.
Please elaborate on that brilliant and original thought.
Brilliant and original thought. And why hadn't anybody thrown Kudlow into the mix for the IMF head? I mean, I was listening to the whole interview. I don't know why we didn't go there. Okay, real estate. Real estate really, certainly we were in something of a bubble, but it was caused by the financing of the real estate. And real estate falling prices right now are not so much an employment issue as they are the result of a dramatic change in how real estate's being financed in this country. Fannie and Freddie and FHA have provided like 97% of all the money for all of the new home mortgage originations in 2010. All of this is changing dramatically. There's still an oversupply, but with that tightening on the ability to finance for the securitization market that's really dried up, these prices are going to go lower. And you take the Fed out that's been pumping money into the system, prices have to go lower.
Diana, is the data telling you that we're going to have to recover without housing? Basically, it's not coming back?
We're going to have...
Yeah.
Well, housing will come back eventually. Look, it always has and it always will. But the question is, it's not only financing, which I agree is a big part of the problem, but it's also perception. I mean, we've talked about this before, that there are new jobs coming into the market. There is a huge pent-up supply out there waiting. You've got all these 20-somethings who you would think would be out there looking for these cheap houses and buying them. But the perception now is that a house is simply not a good investment. And while we see rents rising, people are continuing to pay them. And for the first quarter ever, we're seeing rents higher than the average monthly mortgage payment. Why aren't people jumping in? Because they are afraid to jump in right now because of prices. And just look at construction as well. I mean, we are so far off the normal levels of construction. When jobs are improving, we should see home construction improving. But again, this week, housing starts down.
So, Shari, come in and rebuff Michael. Why do you say that a recovery in the broader economy can happen without housing?
Well, it's not up to me. It is happening. We see it happening. The economy in general looks like it's getting better, and housing is still bumping along the bottom, as it will until we work through these foreclosures. But, here's the thing, and Larry's asked this before when he says, if the stock market's doing great, why should we care about housing? And the reason is that housing is more widely held in terms of an investment across all demographics in the country, and it happens to be a very disproportionate part of the personal wealth for the middle and lower class. In fact, before the bubble burst, housing was about 70% of the personal wealth for 2/3 of middle-class America. So without that, and if we're to become sort of a housing-less recovery and maybe a renter nation, it sort of begs the question, what's going to happen without that safety net and that nest egg and that financial foothold? What is the economic recovery going to look like in terms of social services and retirement and upward mobility? I mean, we're all collectively looking at another $2 trillion worth of home equity loss between now and 2012. It's got to have an impact on the economic recovery in some form.
But Michael Farr, I mean, it is fair to say statistically, this is a very weak recovery relative to prior recessions and recoveries. So to Shari's point, the rising stock market and the falling housing market, I mean, does that show the unbalanced nature of this economy?
Larry, it does show the unbalanced nature of the economy, and I think furthermore, if you look at retail sales and if you look at concentrations of wealth and some of the income and gains over the past few years, what you'll see is that the high end has done very well. Those people who own stocks in this country have done very well, and we've seen wealth grow. We've also seen the percentage of wealth concentrated in smaller and fewer hands. Okay. So we're seeing something, I think, important there. But Diana had a really good point there, which is when people expect that they can buy it cheaper, they're going to hold off, and that's a big problem.
I'm sorry, we've got to interrupt you. We've got some breaking news right now. We're going to go to Eamon Javers, who has the first words that we're hearing.